Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Readings in Isolation. My name is Saman Giraud. Hi, David. Let me wave back. There you go. My name is Saman Giraud, and I'll be reading for you from 1001 Night again. All right. Hope you're all settled. There you go. I'm settled. Now when it was the 89th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king. All this was a stratagem of the ancient woman, for that the king, before his departure, had gone to her and asked, "How shall I do, and what plan shall I pursue? It is thou hast caused this great distress to us." And she had answered, "O great king and mighty Cohen, I will teach thee a trick would baffle the devil himself, though he summoned to his assistance all his grisly hosts. It is that thou send 50,000 men going down in ships and sailing over the sea to the mountain of smoke, and there let them land, and steer not till the standards of Al-Islam come upon thee. When do thou up and at them. Then bid the troops from the seaward sally out upon the Muslims and take them in rear, whilst we confront them from the landward. So not one of them shall escape, and our sorrows shall cease and peace abide with us." Now the counsel of this ancient woman commended itself to King Afridun, and he replied, "Right is the recking thou reckest, O princess of wits, and recourse of kings and Cohens warring for their blood wit." So when the army of Al-Islam came upon them in that valley, before they knew of it, the flames began to burn up the tents, and the swords in man's body to make rents. Then hurried up the army of Baghdad and Khorasan, who numbered 120,000 horse, with Zaw al-Makan in the front of war. When the host of the infidels that lay by the sea saw them, they sallied out against them and followed in their tracks. And when Zaw al-Makan espied this, he cried out to his man, "Turn back to the infidels, O people of the chosen apostle, and slay those who deny and hate the authority of the compassionating, the compassionate." So they turned and fought with the Christians. Then Shah Khan marched up with another corps of the Muslim host, some 100,000 men, whilst the infidels numbered nigh upon 1,600,000 men. When the Muslims were united, their hearts were strengthened, and they cried out, saying, "Verily Allah hath promised us victory, and to the infidels hath assigned defeat." And they clashed together with sword and spear. Now Shah Khan tear through rank and row, and raged among the masses of the foe, fighting so fierce a fight as to make children grey grow. Nor did he cease turning among the infidel horde, and working havoc among them with the keen-edged sword, shouting, "Allahu Akbar! Allah is most great," till he drove back the host to the coast. Then failed the force of the foe, and Allah gave victory to the faith of Al-Islam, and folk fought folk, drunk and without strong drink, till they slew of the infidels in this affair 45,000, while of the Muslims but 3,500 fell. Moreover, the Lion of the Faith, King Shah Khan, and his brother Zaw al-Makan slept not that night, but occupied themselves with congratulating their braves, and with looking to the wounded, and with assuring the army of victory and salvation, and promise of reward in the world to come. Thus far concerning the Muslims. But as regards King Afridun, Lord of Constantinople and Sovereign of Rome, and Zat al-Dawahi, they assembled the emirs of the host and said to them, "Verily, we had worked our will and solaced our hearts, but our overconfidence in our numbers, and that only defeated us." Then quoth to them the Ancient One, the Lady of Calamities, "In very sooth, naught shall profit you, except ye draw you nigh unto the Messiah, and put your trust in the true belief. For by the virtue of the Messiah, the whole strength of the Muslim host lieth in that Satan, King Shah Khan." "Tomorrow," said the king, "I have resolved to draw up in battle array, and to send out against them that redoubtable cavalier, Luka bin Shamlud, For if King Shah Khan come forth as a champion to fight single-handed, our man will slay him, and will slay the other Muslim knights, till not one is left. And I purpose this night to sacre you all with the holy incense." When the emirs heard these words, they kissed the ground before him. Now the incense which he designated was the excrement of the chief patriarch, the denier, the difler of the truth, and they sought for it with such instance as they so highly valued it, that the high priests of the Greeks used to send it to all the countries of the Christians in silken wraps after mixing it with musk and ambergris. Hearing of it, kings would pay 1,000 gold pieces for every dram, and they sent for and sought it to fumigate brides withal. And the chief priests and the great kings were wont to use a little of it as collyrium for the eyes, and as a remedy in sickness and colic. And the patriarchs used to mix their own skite with it, for that the skite of the chief patriarch could not suffice for 10 countries. So as soon as dawn was seen, and the morning shone with its shine and sheen, the horsemen ran to their spears, full keen, and King Afridun and Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now when it was the full 90th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious King, as soon as dawn was seen, and the morning shone with its shine and sheen, the horsemen ran to their spears full keen, and King Afridun summoned his chief knights and nobles, and invested them with dresses of honour, and drawing the sign of the cross on their brows, incensed them with the incense which, as aforesaid, was the skite of the chief patriarch, the Cohen, the heresiarch. This incensing done, he called for Luka bin Shamlut, surnamed the Sword of the Messiah, and after fumigating him and rubbing his palate with the holy myrrh, caused him to snuff it and smeared his cheeks, and anointed his moustache with the rest. Now there was no stouter champion in the land of Rome than this accursed Luka, nor any better at bending of bow or sway or sword or lunge with lance on the day of devoir. But he was foul of favour, for his face was as the face of an ass, his shape that of an ape, and his look as the look of a malignant snake. His presence was grievuser than parting from the beloved maid, and blacker than night was his blackness, and more fetid than the lion was his breath for foulness. More crooked than a bow was his crookedness, and grimmer than the leopard was his ugliness. And he was branded with the mark of the infidels on face. After this, he came up to King Afridun and kissed his feet and stood before him. And the king said to him, "I desire thou go out against Shah Khan, king of Damascus, son of Omar bin al-Numan, and deliver us from this affliction." Quoth Luka, "Hearkening and obedience." And the king made the sign of the cross on his forehead and felt assured of help from heaven being near hand. Then Luka went out from the presence, and the accursed one mounted a sorrel horse. He was clad in a red robe and a hauberk of gold set with jewels, and he bore a trident spear, as he were Iblis the damned on the day of drawing out his host's war to Durain. Then he rode forward, he and his horde of infidels, even as though they were driving to the fire, preceded by a herald, crying aloud in the Arabic tongue and saying, "Ho, sect of Muhammad, upon whom be salutation and salvation. Let none of you come out but your champion Shah Khan, the sword of al-Islam, lord of Damascus and Sham." Nor had he made an end of speaking, when arose a tumult in the plain. All the people heard the strain, and the whole moving bodies of the armies twain called to mind the day of complaint. Then the cowards trembled, and all necks turned towards the sound, and lo, it was King Sharrkan, son of King Omar bin al-Numan. For when his brother Zau al-Makan saw that accursed one push out on the plain, and heard the pursuit, he turned to Sharrkan and said to him, "Of a surety they seek for thee." Said he, "Should it so be, 'twere most pleasing to me." So when they made sure of the matter and heard the herald crying in the plain, "Let none of you come out against me save Sharrkan," they knew this cursed Lucca to be champion of the land of Roum, who had sworn to sweep the earth clean of Muslims. Now he was one of the greatest of villains, a wretch who caused hearts to pain, and the Daylamites, Turks and Kurds dreaded his might and main. Presently Sharrkan drave at him like a lion angry grim, mounted on a courser like a wild gazelle, flying snell and slim, and coming nigh to him made the spear he had to shake as it were a darting snake, and recited these couplets: "I have a sorrel steed, whose pride is fain to bear the rein, shall give thee what thou likest not, and make thee feel his mane. I have a handy limber spear, full bright and keen of point, upon whose shaft the dam of death her throny seat hath taken. I have a trenchant glaive of hint, and when I bear its face of scabbard veil, from out its brow the rays of levin rain." Lucca understood not the sense of his speech, nor did he apprehend the vehemence of the verse, but he smote his forehead with his hand in honour of the cross drawn thereon, and kissed it. Then he couched his throw spear and ran at Sharrkan. But first he tossed the javelin with one hand in air to such height that it was lost to the spectator's sight, and catching it with the other hand, as do the jugglers, hurled it at Sharrkan. It flew from his grasp like a shooting star, and folk clamoured and feared for Sharrkan. But as the spear flew near him, he put out his hand and caught it in full flight, to the amazement of all who saw the sight. Then he shook it with the hand that took it till it was well nigh broken, and hurled it so high into the welkin that it disappeared from view. As it descended, he caught it again with the other hand in less than the twinkling of an eye, and cried out from his hard core, saying, "By the truth of him who created the sevenfold skies, I will assuredly make this cursed wight a byword for mankind to despise." Then threw he the throw spear at Lucca, who thought to do as Sharrkan had done, and put forth his hand to hand it in mid-flight, but Sharrkan prevented him, and sped at him a second throw spear, which smote him, and the point fell on his forehead in the very centre of the sign of the cross. And Allah hurried his soul to the fire and dwelling place dire. But when the infidels saw Lucca bin Shamlud slain, they buffeted their faces, and they cried, "Alas, and woe worth the day," and called for aid upon the abbots of the monasteries. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now when it was the 91st night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the infidels saw Lucca bin Shamlud slain, they buffeted their faces and cried, 'Alas, and woe worth the day,' and called upon the abbots of the monasteries and cried, 'Where be the crosses?' So the religious offered up prayers, and the Christians all drew together against Sharrkan, and brandishing their scimitars and lances, rushed forward to the attack. Then army met army, and breasts fell under hoof, while spear and sword ruled the day, and forearms and wrists grew weak, and the coursers seemed created without legs. Not that the herald of war ceased calling to fight, till arms were aweary, and day took flight, and night came on with darkness died. So the two hosts drew apart, whilst every brave staggered like a drunken knave, for that with so much cut and thrust they strayed, and the place was choked with the slain. Fell were the wounds, and the herd knew not by whom they fell. Then Sharrkan joined his brother, Zau al-Makan, and the chamberlain and the Vizier Dandan, and said to them, Verily, Allah hath opened a door for the infidels to fall. Praised be the Lord of the worlds, one and all. Replied Zau al-Makan, Let us never cease to praise Allah, for that He hath dispelled trouble from the Arab and the Ajam. Indeed, the folk, generation after generation, shall tell of thy daring do against the accursed Lucre, the falsifier of the Evangel, of thy catching the throw spear in mid-flight, and how the enemy of Allah among men thou didst smite, and thy fame shall endure until the end of time. Then said Sharrkan, Hark ye, O Grand Chamberlain and doughty Captain. And he answered, Adsum. Quoth Sharrkan, Take with thee the Vizier Dandan and 20,000 horse, and lead them 7 parasangs towards the sea, and force the march till ye shall have come near the shore, and there remain only 2 parasangs between thee and the foe. Then ambush ye in the hollows of the ground, till ye hear the tumult of the infidels disembarking from their ships, and the war cry from every side strike your ear, and ye know that the sabres have begun labour between us and them. And when so ye see our troops falling back, as if defeated, and all the infidels following them, as well those in front as those from the seaward and the tents, do ye still lie in wait for them? But as soon as ye see the standard with the words, There is no God but thee, God, and Muhammad is God's apostle, on whom the salutation and salvation, then up with the green banner, and do your endeavour and fall on their rear, and shout, Allahu Akbar, Allah is most great, and circle round that they may not interpose between the retreating army and the sea. He replied, To hear is to obey. And forthright they agreed upon this matter, and they went forth. Now the chamberlain took with himself the Vizier Dandan and 20,000 men, even as Sharrkan had commanded. As soon as dawned the morn, the troops sprung to horse when they had donned their armour gear and drawn the scimitar and slung the spear. Then the Christians dispread themselves over hill and dale, and the ecclesiasts cried out, and all heads were bared, and those in the ships hoisted the cross at their mastheads, and began making for shore from every side, and landed their horses and got them ready for fight and fray, whilst the sword blades glittered bright, and the javelins glanced like levin light on mail shirt white. And all joined fight, and the grind mill of death whirled round and ground those who fought from horse and aground. Heads from bodies flew, and tongues mute grew, and eyes no vision knew. Scimitars strave with utmost strain, and heads flew over the battle plain. Gallbladders clave, and wrists were shorn in twain. Steeds plashed in pools of gore, and beards were gripped right sore. The host of Al-Islam called out, saying, On the Prince of mankind be blessings and peace, and to the Compassionate's glory and praise, which never shall cease, for his boons which I increase. And the host of the infidels shouted, Glory to the cross and the belt and the wine-pressed Jews, and the wine-presser and the priests, and the monks, and the festival of palms, and the metropolitan. Now Zau al-Makan and Sharrkan held back, and the troops gave way and feigned flight from before the enemy, while the infidel array pressed hard upon them, deeming them in rout, and made ready to foin and hew. Then the many of the Muslims raised their voices, reciting the first verses of the chapter of the cow, whilst the dead were trampled under hoofs of steeds. And the heralds of the Greeks cried out, Ho, servants of the Messiah, ho, people of the true faith, ho, followers of the primate. Verily, divine grace upon you opes, for see, the hosts of Al-Islam, like birds with broken wings, incline to elope. So turn ye not to them your backs, but let your swords cleave deep in their necks, and hold not your hands from them, else are ye outcast from the Messiah, Mary's son, who spoke even when a cradled one. Now Afridun, king of Constantinople, deemed that the infidels were victorious, knowing not that this was but a clever stratagem of the Muslims, and sent to King Hardub of Rome congratulations on success, adding, availed us naught but the holy merde of the arch-patriarch, whose fragrance exhaled from the beards and moustaches of the slaves of the cross near and far. And I swear by the miracles of the Messiah, and by thy daughter Abrizah the Nazarene, and by the waters of baptism, that I will not leave upon the earth a single defender of Al-Islam, and to the bitter end will I carry out this plan. So the messenger betook himself with the address to King Hardub, whilst the infidels called to one another, saying, Take we vengeance wreak for lucre. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Aren't war stories the best good night stories ever? I hope you enjoyed this one, everybody. And I hope you had a lovely day, a wonderful evening, a relaxing evening. As usual, go inwards instead of outwards. Greetings from me and Button, who's deep asleep. And we will continue tomorrow night with the wonderful Joanna Godwin Seidel. So tune in. Have a lovely night, everyone.